Every summer, a nation of more than 300 million people fills the sky with fire. Bonfires, parades, fireworks from one coast to the other, all to celebrate the day America was born. There's just one problem. They're celebrating the wrong day. The country that built an entire identity around its founding got the founding's date wrong. And one of the men who helped write it spent the rest of his life quietly furious about it. The real story of the 4th of July is stranger than the fireworks, and it ends with a coincidence so unlikely that people at the time were certain it had to be the hand of God. Let's go back to where it actually happened. Philadelphia, the summer of 1776. For months, the 13 colonies had been inching toward a decision they couldn't take back. Break away from the most powerful empire on earth, or stay. On July 2nd, 1776, the Continental Congress finally voted. They chose independence. July 2nd, not the 4th. The man who saw it most clearly was John Adams. The day after that vote, on July 3rd, he sat down and wrote a letter to his wife, Abigail. And in it, he made a prediction. He wrote that this day, the 2nd of July, will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be marked, he said, with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other. Read that again. Bonfires, fireworks, coast to coast. In 1776, Adams described the exact 4th of July we still celebrate today. He got every detail right, every single one, except the date. So if independence was decided on the 2nd, why do we celebrate the 4th? Because of paperwork. The vote on July 2nd was the decision, but the document explaining that decision, the Declaration of Independence, the soaring words about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, wasn't approved until 2 days later. On July 4th, Congress adopted the final wording, the text, the announcement. In other words, America doesn't celebrate the day it chose to be free. It celebrates the day it approved the press release. And it gets stranger, because almost no one actually signed the Declaration on the 4th of July either. That famous scene, the quill, the parchment, the founders lining up one by one, mostly didn't happen on the 4th. Most historians believe the signed parchment everyone pictures wasn't signed until weeks later, around August 2nd. So the holiday isn't the day of the vote, it isn't the day of the signing, it's the day the wording got approved. John Adams never let it go. He believed July 2nd was the true birthday of the nation, and the story goes that he refused to take part in 4th of July events out of protest, turning down invitations, insisting everyone was honoring the wrong day. Quick thing before we go on. If this is the kind of story you love, take a second and subscribe. This channel hunts down the strange truth hiding behind the things everyone thinks they already understand, and you really won't want to miss what's coming next. Okay, back to it. Here's the part Adams would have loved. The celebration he imagined didn't wait long to appear. The first organized 4th of July party happened just 1 year later in 1777 in Philadelphia. Bells rang, cannons fired, and the night ended with fireworks lighting up the sky, exactly the illuminations Adams had described. The tradition was born almost instantly. It simply attached itself to the 4th instead of the 2nd and never let go. But the strangest chapter of this story wasn't written in 1776 or 1777. It was written 50 years later. Two of the most important founders were John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson drafted the Declaration. Adams fought for it on the floor of Congress. They were partners at the start. Then they became rivals, running against each other, tearing into each other, two old friends who stopped speaking for years. And then, late in life, they made peace. They began writing letters back and forth, dozens of them, two aging revolutionaries arguing about philosophy, memory, and the country they had built. In 1826, the nation prepared for a milestone, 50 years since the Declaration, the Jubilee, the 4th of July, 1826. Thomas Jefferson, 83 years old, lay dying at Monticello. Those at his side said he kept asking the same question in his final hours. Is it the 4th yet? He held on just long enough. He died on July 4th, around midday. 600 miles to the north, in Quincy, Massachusetts, John Adams was dying too, 90 years old. He had no way of knowing what had happened in Virginia, and according to those at his bedside, his last words were about his old friend and rival. Thomas Jefferson survives. He was wrong. Jefferson had died just hours earlier, that same afternoon. Two men, the last two surviving authors of American independence, gone within hours of each other, on the same day, the 4th of July, exactly 50 years after the document they were both remembered for. To people in 1826, this did not feel like coincidence. It felt like destiny, like proof that the nation was blessed, that its founding was stitched into something larger than chance. Ministers preached about it. Newspapers called it the finger of God. And then it happened a third time. 5 years later, on July 4th, 1831, a third president, James Monroe, also died. 3 of the first 5 presidents, all gone on the same date, the date that, strictly speaking, was never even the right one. So sit with the whole picture. A nation celebrates its birthday on a day it wasn't born. It honors a signing that mostly didn't happen then. One of its founders spent his life insisting it was all wrong, and then died on that very day, 50 years later, with his rival's name on his lips, not knowing his rival had gone first. Here's what this strange story is really about. A holiday is not a date. It's a story a people agree to tell about themselves. The fight over July 2nd versus July 4th barely matters, because the 4th of July was never really about accuracy, it was about meaning. A young, fragile country needed a single moment to point to and say, this is where we began. And once the fireworks started, the exact day stopped mattering. We do this with everything. We round off the messy truth into a clean story we can celebrate. We keep the version that means something, not the version that's technically correct. So this year, when the sky fills with fire, you'll know the secret hiding inside the celebration. The date is wrong, John Adams was right, and somehow none of it matters. Because a country isn't held together by its facts. It's held together by the stories it chooses to keep telling. The earth keeps turning, the fireworks keep falling, and a nation keeps celebrating the wrong day, perfectly, on purpose. And if a secret hiding in plain sight is your kind of thing, here's another one, this time buried under the feet of 40 million people. Go watch my video on the 2 mega earthquakes that could hit California. The ground out there is quietly keeping a debt of its own, wound tighter than it has been in 1,000 years. It's on screen now. I'll see you there.